And once again, we are back with the Hot Wheels 1957 Chevy. May or may not be a Redline, probably not. We've got to strip it, so we are using our citrus strip, which I used to use this product in previous videos. I ran out, so I've been using Aircraft Stripper, but I much prefer this citrus strip, a lot safer. Now here is the car in the video from the other day, after the bluing, so this is where we're at this point. And I really didn't think that would work. It was just a fun little experiment. So it didn't. We may try it again after polishing the car, but for now we're going to move on. So the first thing I want to do with this is rough it up a little bit. By a little bit, I kind of mean a lot. We're just using a little attachment on our Dremel that has a ball on the end of it and just roughing it up. Because we want to make this like a junkyard find kind of car. See, we're just scuffing it up here and there, and now I am drilling some small holes. It's just a tiny drill bit on the Dremel, and what I did notice when drilling these holes is that some of this car appears to be like maybe embedded with plastic. So those shavings you see there, see how they're coming off? And what I'm doing here is creating some small rust holes and then nipping them to make them look more realistic. Now, not all of these end up looking that realistic. This whole weathering rustic thing is all new to me, so this is all trial and error. This is the paint we're going to be using for the base. It's Rust-Oleum flat enamel, and it's a brown. It's a primer basically, but it looks kind of like rust. Next we're going to apply some water in various spots on the casting with a brush. What we're getting ready to do is the salting method, which is for weathering a car. Get some sea salt, this is fine grit, and simply sprinkle the salt over the wet areas. This will cause the salt to stick to those areas and not fall off. Once we've got the salt where we like it, we're going to go ahead and get ready for our base color, which in this case we're going to be using a acrylic enamel craft paint. These are from Walmart, 97 cents. We're going to mix it 1-to-1 ratio with the rubbing alcohol. 1 part rubbing alcohol, 1 part paint. I actually got this tip from Sean at the Dudes in Toyland podcast, so be sure to check out their podcast. Again, I will leave a link in the description. Now we're just painting the entire car with the salt on it. And once that dries, after 15 or 20 minutes, we're going to knock that salt off with an old toothbrush. And what this does is leave us with the blue paint for the majority of the car, but wherever we had the salt, the brown paint, the Rust-Oleum, will show through. I thought this was a pretty quick and easy way to get a weathering effect. And once you remove all that salt, which can be a little bit messy, we're going to go ahead and touch it up with our Tamiya weathering kit. Now, this is the rust portion, just like we used on the Roadkill car. And I'm going over all of the exposed brown portions with the weathering kit. I even add a little bit more to it, but the brown from the Rust-Oleum paint and the brown from this weathering kit combined really give you a realistic effect. I'm doing the same thing to the bumpers, front and rear. Now I painted these off camera. They were with the chrome pen, but they were too nice, so we're adding a little bit of dullness / rust to both of those. And I have this set of wheels from an M2 that I thought I really wanted to use. They're actually pretty nice. I do have to create my own axles, and luckily these have holes in the actual wheels, so I can glue the wheel on, insert the axle, then I can cut it to length, and then simply glue the other wheel on. Makes it real easy. I don't have to create any kind of crimp cap, glue any tips on, or flatten the ends of each axle. So once we're done with this, we're going to go ahead and paint that interior. It's that clear blue. We're just painting it with testers, flat black. Now once it dries, it will lose that gloss, and it becomes flat and looks more realistic. Now once that interior dries, which is usually about 10 minutes or so, we're going to go ahead and reassemble. We start by inserting the glass, followed by the interior, and last, but certainly not least, we screw on the base. Once we've got that complete, it's almost ready. The windows were a little bit too shiny, so I used some of the weathering kit, and there's a soot compound in there, and I went ahead and applied that to the windows. It's kind of hard to tell that I did, but they're definitely not as shiny as they were. Here's a close look at it. It's not the best in the world, but again, this is trial and error for me. I've never done this weathering before. And there are those wheels I spoke about. I thought I liked them. They look okay. The problem with this casting is the rear wheel wells are really large as far as the arch, not the width. So it's kind of hard to get a wheel that looks really good in the car. And that's part of the reason why I was not too pumped on finishing this custom. Just because it does not look realistic at all as far as the body lines and the wheel arches. It looks too much like a Hot Wheel. When you've got the M2s, the green lights, the Johnny Lightnings out there, it's really hard to compete with those castings. But what makes it nice for me is these type of castings give me a canvas to practice on. I've never done weathering before. We did the last car, and now I've went a little bit further, and the next one we decide to weather may be even further. But I really don't like these wheels. So I decided to use some M2 wheels. Now I think these wheels look 100% better. The only problem I have with them are the rear wheel arch. Kind of large. The front one's not too bad, but the rear one, eh. Overall, I'm really pleased with how this turned out, especially the paint. Now the rust holes, not necessarily. I do like the ones I have in the rear corners, where I nipped out some of the metal and made it look more like a rust, like a hole instead of just a hole. Same with the rear. The two on the left look fine. The ones on the right are just holes. They look almost like bullet holes, so shame on me. Anyway, if you see any of the tools I use in this video you'd like to purchase for yourself, be sure to check out the links below the video description. I have Amazon links to everything I use. And as always, thanks for watching.